Olá, sejam bem-vindos a mais uma edição do programa IAgora Entrevista. Hoje temos a honra de receber, de dar as boas-vindas a Stan Captain, representante do Ministério da Educação e Pesquisa da Estônia. Stan, it's a pleasure to help you with us. Thank you very much for receiving our invitation.
Hi, Isabella. It's a pleasure to be here, and greetings to everyone.
Stan, your work revolves around understanding educational trends globally. How do you see the current landscape of AI in education?
Got it. So I think more broadly speaking, with AI and with all new technology, there is always a fear that we might see some sort of AI winter or some technology winter face us, and that will mean that there will be a pause in the development of the technology. I really feel that we might now, and maybe this is me being an innovation person, that we are currently not facing that problem. I foresee the current AI trend really becoming more powerful. I think we have enough scientific development happening at the moment that we have years worth of technological advances to look forward to. So broadly speaking, I think AI is really here to stay, and whatever other ministry I am in touch with here in Estonia, everybody is thinking about how to integrate AI into their processes, how to make sure that all of the workers know how to use AI and know how to make the most of it. So we are really banking on AI being a trend that will last for years. I think, and maybe on a more specific detail, I will also add that one of the features of this is, and the current kind of explosion in AI becoming something that is available for the wider public is a result of the development in generative AI, of course. And I think what we will see a general trend now is that AI will stop being a gimmick, something small that only a few people use and they don't know how to use, and the general public doesn't know how to use very well, to it becoming a kind of mainstream product that everyone will have to learn how to use, also in education.
Yes, I'm sure. And in Brazil, this will pop up like a virus because we love technology. So you advise international partners on education innovation. So these key trends that you mentioned also bring some challenges. So how do you see these challenges across different countries?
There are very fundamental challenges that every country has to overcome when we're talking about education and more broadly. And something that we have to be mindful of is equity. Equity is a very important topic within generally technology and digital technology and AI as well. And it's the idea that for everyone to be on board and for everyone to have an opportunity to use AI and to learn how to use it and to learn how it can help them maybe make some get through some tasks faster and so on. Everybody has to have access to it, and access to the technology will be a challenge for everyone. And though, when we talk with different countries, we always try to understand where they are in their development, because many countries are facing situations where, for example, they might not have internet in all of their schools. They might not have computers in all of their schools. And if you don't have the fundamentals in place, it's very hard to discuss this idea of really utilizing and learning how to use AI in your daily life. So the challenges in some ways stay the same. It's that you want everyone to have access. And so you need to make sure that is something fundamental, that you're working with it, that people have access to the internet, that they have computers, especially in schools, that all students have an opportunity to acclimatize to learning how to use this technology. Because the way we are looking at the future is that whatever job you're doing, almost whatever job you're doing, the vast majority of jobs will entail that you know how to use AI technology. Just like maybe 30 years ago, everybody had to learn how to use a word processor, how to use the office suite, and so on. I think the same is what we're looking forward to in AI. So equity is very important. So just to make sure that everyone is set and they have the required prerequisites in place. So that is something that is important, that we want people to focus on. And once you have the prerequisites in place in terms of the technology, the physical apparatuses, then you need to make sure that you have the training. The training is, of course, very important. And from an education point of view, this means that teachers are a big focus for us. After teachers, that also includes university professors. So everyone has to be on board. And of course, students will follow. But we're also talking about programs in Estonia, for example, for programs for the whole populace. So ways to get this idea of the popularization of AI into the general discourse so that people understand that it's something that's coming and they prepare for it. Yeah.
So imagine what you say, Stan. We live in a country in Brazil, when you go to the Amazon, sometimes for you to reach one place, you have to go with a boat for 1 day. So as the rest of the problems that we have in the world right now, we need balance. For instance, we have satellites all over the earth so that we could really have internet for everybody, even to those kids. But we need to have balance. People need to this reality is completely different from what we face in our everyday lives in Brazil, and of course, what we call the South Global. So as for everything else, the climate, everything, we need balance, holding hands. But Estonia really has a very important contribution because you have a very high rates of in PISA education rates. You have very good education. So what do you think has made this happen in Estonia? Besides, of course, you have equity.
So I will start off by saying that what you just said and that you use the word balance is very, very important. Balance is central actually also to the successful utilization of AI and also to health and well-being of the whole populace and to the future of our students. I think one of the trends that we are only now starting to see is that globally we have now been talking over the last decade at least about this idea of mental health, how important it is, and this idea of well-being. What we are now seeing, and this is just a logical trend that follows, is that we are starting to focus more on ideas such as physical health and physical well-being, which sounds nonsensical. It sounds strange. How could we be doing this? And why do we need to be talking about this? It seems so, it seems so obvious. But what we see is that the more people, and this is, commonsensical, the more people use smartphones, the more they use computers, the more they sit down, their health just takes a hit. So if you're spending your whole day sitting in the office behind the screen, then you have free time, then you're spending that behind your phone, then that is going to have an effect not only on your mental health, but also relatedly on your physical health. So the very important key part here also is the balance when we talk about education, is that in a strange kind of way, the more you use a computer, the more you actually need to be doing things with your body. So the more time that you're spending behind the computer, sitting down in a classroom, the more you need to be spending time outside, walking, running around, doing sports, doing whatever, going into the forest and not only reading about plants from a book, but reading about plants and going to the rainforest, for example, in Brazil, and going to really look at the plants. So that is also the important part with the balance here that we need to be mindful. Estonia's success is always something that everyone is very intrigued about, and how have we done this, and so on. And some of it has to do with a very difficult historical period that we had before we regained independence, where Estonia felt that we are finally free as a country and we really want to make the best use of this. And we made some very, I think, forward-looking decisions in the 90s that related to people understanding that the PC, home computers, are here to stay, and that we need to make sure that our young people in this new republic learn how to use these digital tools so that they can be future ready and help Estonia thrive. So we had this benefit of not having legacy technology, and in many ways that we got a new fresh start, and with some good luck on our side, we managed to make decisions that are to this day having a positive effect, for example, on technology utilization in Estonia and also in our education system.
And concerning AI, what are the key initiatives that you have been involved in Estonia? What is the country's vision for the future, for instance, as well?
Absolutely. So we understood very quickly that AI is going to be very big and very important, especially after 2022. Everyone knew that there was no going back. Once ChatGPT got out of the box and everyone could see it and use it, we understood that something big was happening, and it was the last time to really start doing something about it. So what we have done, for example, from the point of view of the Ministry of Education and Research, is that we now have an AI council in the service of the minister. And the minister gave the AI council 2 tasks. One of them was to identify the most important things that we have to do as a ministry and as a nation in regard to education to make sure that we are part of this AI revolution. And so, to give you a few examples of what have been decided and what we are working on, something that I also mentioned earlier was this idea that we need, you need technology, but then you also need to train your people. So it's very important to us now. We're really focusing on this idea of training our teachers. And also, equally importantly, we are now working on training our public sector servants. So this is something that's going to start actually in the end of November. It will be quite an intense period up until, for example, for our ministry, up until sometime in February, where we have quite a comprehensive introductory course for the public sector servants. And this is important because I think this is generally a very important point that I want to make. If you want to enact change in a system, it's important that the key players really understand, for example, in our case, the technology. Because if, for example, our leaders, our people in leadership positions have to make decisions about artificial intelligence and they don't really understand artificial intelligence, they might be hesitant about making that decision, or they might postpone it. So it's very important for us that we make sure that our public servants really understand the technology and also that they learn how to use it. So we have, for example, figured out some easier tasks that everyone can start with, that they can start using AI. And also very important for us is that it's important that everyone is really on board and working together. So we don't want just to tell our schools that, we have a great education system here. Schools, you are doing very well. Be innovative, but we don't really know anything about innovation in the ministry. So we really want to be walking, in the same step as our schools. So we don't only want to be telling our schools to be innovative, but we want to make sure that we are also part of that process, so that when we are talking about change, that we are also part of that change and that we can really talk to schools knowing the technology and also using the technology ourselves. So one is the teaching aspect, which is very, very important because you have the technology, you have to know how to use it. And then we have all sorts of different initiatives that we probably will talk about later, which relate to ideas about how this technology is actually going to change the way we teach. Very, very important, because this technology it's really making us reconsider, and the technology is giving us options that we didn't have before, that is actually forcing the hand of our teachers. So our teachers cannot give our students some of the tasks that they gave them before. So they have to start rethinking about their whole teaching process. And I think, and our gut feeling is, and all of the information that we're looking at is, that this should really have a beneficial effect on the teaching process. It should make also education more interesting for students as we move away from these very simplistic homework tasks like write me a paper, write me an essay, which students cannot do anymore, to ideas like let's discuss, let's analyze, let's compare different results. So it's going to have a huge, huge impact.
That's the part that is fascinating to me. The best part for me is like to talk about this teaching process. But unfortunately, we have arrived to the end of the first part of our program. Infelizmente, pessoal, o programa IAgora Entrevista vai fazer um breve intervalo, mas não saiam daí, porque a gente volta já.